straight into another.
I've had my third meeting today.
There we go. I believe we're live. Welcome to Action Coach Birmingham and our Lunch and Learn series. It's good to have you with us. We're broadcasting on 3 platforms. We're on Zoom, if you log to us on Zoom. We're also live on Facebook and LinkedIn. So please do ask any questions, share the link, and we'd also love to know exactly where you're listening to us from. We're listening to us, I say. There's more than just me here. It's really good to tell you we've got Kineo Irichalu from Synergy. Hi, Kineo. How are you?
Hi, Steve. Hi, Steve. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, absolutely, I can.
Yeah, I'm great. It's a Monday afternoon. Where else would I be than here with you, Steve?
Lunch and Learn. Well, it's great to have you with us. And we're going to be talking today, Kineo, assuming I've got everything right at my end, we're talking about systems, aren't we? How we can really make use of technology to help us systemize our business and to be more efficient. And ultimately, I guess, make more profit and gain more time for ourselves and for the business to redeploy that time and that profit in a different way.
Absolutely.
So there in a nutshell is what we're going to do over the next sort of 45 minutes or so. But before we start, Kineo, I'm sure many of our listeners will know who Action Coach, what Action Coach is all about, but they may not know anything about Synergy. So just tell us a bit about Synergy and what you do.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Steve. Can I tell Synergy? Synergy is a process automation firm. Essentially, what we do is we do systems automation. We help businesses to optimize what they're able to do with their various systems. So take any process, be it marketing or sales or operations or finance, and we advise them on the best automation tools to implement within the organization so that they can do more with less, pretty much.
I love that phrase, do more with less. Leverage. We talk about that, Kineo, from your interactions with us before. The Action Coach, we talk a lot about leverage, don't we? And that's a big part of building your business is how can you do more with less? And a very simple example, when I started doing these Lunch and Learns, probably 2 years ago now, I used to just be on the Zoom platform and I found out there's this custom go live button. And by giving up the same hour on a Monday and a Wednesday, I can now reach many more people just by pressing that one button, doing more with less. But for every business to succeed, it's first of all got to become you've got to have great systems, haven't they? And I was in McDonald's at the weekend and it didn't quite go to plan. So I had to speak to the manager, and outcomes, I mean, maybe just me getting old, but outcomes is what I'd say is probably a 21-year-old young lady, and says, I am the manager. And I was just reflecting on that over the weekend. And I guess they can have staff, and they have got many staff, excellent staff at that age managing a store because they've got excellent systems. You go to any McDonald's in the world and they're probably flipping their burger and cleaning the toilets in exactly the same way, aren't they? Because they're using great systems.
Absolutely. And speaking of McDonald's, actually, wasn't this weekend, but the weekend before last, I was watching the movie about the founder, Ray Kroc.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so a really good movie, and again, it explains why McDonald's is great, and it's exactly what you said. It's about putting great systems and then teaching your people on how to run the system rather than trying to, do it on their own, pretty much.
And if you've got a great system, you can then afford to, if I go to McDonald's in Japan or in France or in Africa, there will be some tweaks because of the country or the menu or the diet, so the preferences. But it's all based on that original system, isn't it? So it's having that fundamental system in the first place. And Kineo, I did think of you this morning as I made my cup of tea. You and I have talked about tea making several times in the past, haven't we?
Never gets old.
I didn't quite consciously go through this many steps, but I guess subconsciously I probably did. It's about understanding the systems in our business. So tell us what sort of areas of the business do you focus on, and where would we start if we wanted to think about systems in our business? What's the best starting point?
As you well know, so really think about it. For me, business boils down to one thing: making money, right? Now, we don't have a business unless we're making profits. I think Action Coach has a phrase for that. So for me, usually the best place to start is look at how you make money within the business. And those will be the places to start systemizing. So you're thinking accounts and finance. You probably want to think about getting clients in as well, and how you capture your leads and how you track them as they go through so having a CRM system is critical, and then having an accounting and finance system is invaluable, in my way I look at it.
We I was just going to grab it, but I can't find it. We have a set process for sales at Action Coach. We go, where does that lead come from, and depending on where the lead comes from, we set them through a set process. And it's important to have that mapped out, isn't it? To take time to look at the process you have, or may not have. But I think every business has a process, but subconsciously they just need to map it out and think, well, how can I improve?
Absolutely. If it's not written, what can be measured can be can be done, really, can it? So what gets measured gets done, like they say as well. Absolutely. So I think the first thing typically will be, how do you take what you know and put it down on paper, no matter whether it's 5 steps or 10 steps. But usually, like you say, it's interesting. By the time you start listing the things that you do, you find bits in there that you actually didn't realize that you did as part of the process.
So you take that cup of tea example. We're all used to making a hot beverage. And we do it on autopilot, don't we? Or driving to pick the kids up from school. Many examples we can give of things we do every single day. Absolutely. And we don't consciously think about how many steps are in that process. But if you start to map those out, I'm guessing, then you can then look at efficiency. I always use a cup of tea example, because I love, if you're making a cup of tea in a coffee shop or you're making it at home, there we are. The different steps and the opportunities for efficiency may be different.
Absolutely. Because once you have it listed, then what you're now looking at is, where can you streamline? What are the wastages in the process?
Yes. So the sugar sachets on the table at the restaurant, rather than asking every time, do you want sugar? And then potentially getting it wrong, so you have to make the cup of tea again.
Yes.
It's looking at what can you do to save time. My partner always laughs in my kitchen because she thinks the cups are in the wrong place. You have to open 2 cupboards, whereas in her kitchen, the cupboard, the cups and the tea bags are in the same cupboard. Those small changes can make a big difference. But we're not here to talk about cups of tea. In terms of other areas of the business, what other areas could we think of, or most common, Kaneo, in terms of being able to make efficiencies?
Operations as well. So it's always interesting when you speak with, I'm as guilty as the next person, but we become specialists at what we do. And then we find out before you know, I tend to do what I do in a particular set way. It's worked for me. And then when I get someone in to do the exact same thing that I'm doing, I struggle because I haven't got it written down. But once I have it written and I'm thinking, the person I'm getting in has to be highly specialized, highly knowledgeable to be able to do what I do. So there's no need getting it. But if you think about it, the more processes we put in place, then it makes it easier for me to hand over the operation side of things, the doing. So remember, there are 3 sides. There's the getting the business, there's doing the business, and then there's getting your money. Those are the 3 key areas in a business, right? So we've talked about, obviously, the finance, getting your money. Then we've talked about getting the customer. Then the other one is the operations, delivery, and again, McDonald's is known for, using that example, for consistent delivery.
Yes.
That part of that consistent delivery is, how do we take the order? How do we pass the order to the kitchen? How do we get the buns? How do we flip the burger? How do we flip the burger and all that? So operations is a key element of what needs to be systemized in any business.
Mm-hmm. I've got a question from Sarah, actually. She's just asking today, is there any easy way of identifying a system that's not working? How do you know if the system isn't working? It's an interesting question, isn't it?
That's an interesting one. So how do you know? So it depends on, are we looking at internal systems or external systems? External systems, make sure you have a complaint management system, is what I'll say. So have a method for clients to reach out to you when things are not working. That's the biggest feedback you get, and don't take everything as negative. So once you get the feedback, customer, or be proactive as well. So if you're looking at external clients,
just to pause you there, Jack's excuse me, my throat. Jack's just saying internal, external. What do you mean? I think we're talking about customer facing or internal, aren't we?
Yes. So customer facing is external, and then all the bits that happen within the organization are all internal. So if you're talking about how we, so if I'm looking at, depends. I don't know what business you're in, but let's stick with the McDonald's example. right? So walk into McDonald's, I'm the customer. If they take my order and I deliver it, and some of the things that I asked for are not in there, then that's external, right? So giving feedback is I didn't get what I wanted. Now McDonald's can receive that, and then nothing happens because whoever got the information keeps it with themselves. But if there's a system for lodging those kind of complaints, as soon as it comes in, someone needs to notice somewhere that this happened, and then someone else, it doesn't have to be the same people, who have to investigate to understand how that happened, and then look for an opportunity to fix it. The same thing happens internally. So between sales and finance, right? If they don't get the information, so it might be the sales guy who's saying, oh, but my client is complaining that he's been overbilled, right? So there has to be an internal complaint management system as well, if that makes sense.
And systemizing or documenting your systems is a great way for identifying those gaps and those overlaps, aren't they? Duplications of process where we can save time, but also gaps where could have an impact on those clients and those customers that you've got in the business, and making sure you've got every stage covered.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And in terms of what you do at Synergy, I think I've heard you talk about robots. Do you want to tell us a bit more about your robots?
Yeah, and, absolutely.
How they can help with systemization?
So I think the easiest I have a short slide there that I can show you.
Oh, that'd be excellent. Yes, please, please do.
But before I talk about that, if you think about, so we've talked about systemizing and I talked about automation. So the first thing you want to do really is to have those systems in place. But once you have the systems in place, then you're thinking of how do I optimize and maximize what I've got? And that's where automation comes in. And automation, fancy word for being able to take what you have and using technology to do more of the same kind of thing or more of it without necessarily doing it manually. Right.
So before we get to the automation stage, for our listeners out there, if you haven't got anything mapped out, it's a great opportunity to engage with your team, with your staff, and with your customers to do some research and just find out what's working, what's not working, and start mapping those processes out. So it sounds like that's a really crucial part of this process. And then once you've got the system or the mapped out, we can then look at how we can be more efficient. That's what you're saying, I think, isn't it?
Absolutely. So once you have, and that optimization is where the technology really comes in.
Yes, yeah.
Right, because what technology is good at is taking what you have and repeating it so many times, and a lot faster than you could do manually. Right. So where the robots now come in is, we realize that the world we live in is getting more and more automated. But the biggest problem with automation is that we still have to do manual bits inside the automated system. So I'll give you an example. As you well know, I work a lot with bookkeepers and accountants, and bookkeepers and accountants work predominantly with the likes of accounting systems like Xero, which every business owner should have if they haven't, because it gives you visibility into your finance system, right?
Important.
Good. Yeah, exactly. So you have Xero, and Xero is supposed to help you to understand where your finances are, help you to make bank reconciliation easy and XYZ. Problem with those tools is that you still have to do manual bits in them, right? And the bigger you get, the more the number of transaction volume, right, that you have, the more time you have to spend manually updating the systems. Same thing happens with your CRM. Same thing happens with supply chain management or HR systems, right? So there's a lot of manual tasks that go on within so-called these systems or these automated systems. Now, what we do, or what we do, part of what we do in Synergy is we write software that mimics what you and I can do on desktop and laptop computers, right? And that takes the potential optimization of the business to a whole new level, right? I mean, if you wanted to see what I'm talking about, I can show you.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. Yeah, I mean, I think
probably bring it to
people, when we talk about robots, people often think about the production industry, manufacturing, etc. But I think, the service industry, there's a huge amount of opportunities in there to use automation that people perhaps don't think of as first nature. To, it's not their instinctive thoughts. Think, well, actually, automation will work in my finances or would work in my bookkeeping processes. But actually, it can save a huge amount of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, please do show your slides or show your demos. It'd be great for our listeners to hear and see firsthand what what you can
what's
do.
possible.
Well,
Absolutely.
that's it. What is possible? I think, once you know what's possible, you can then think about how you can apply that in your own business.
Exactly. I couldn't put it better myself, Steve. So give me one sec. I'm trying to walk the technology. The technologist. All right. So can you see my screen?
I can. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good stuff. So really, I think what I wanted to talk about is how you take your manual processes and put them on autopilot, really using a technology, a tool called robotic process automation. Right now, the example I'm going to use today is within the accounting and bookkeeping space, but this is applicable to across industry. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as you have manual tasks, manual repetitive tasks that you have to do. Opening emails and attachments being an example. Check how many hours or minutes that you have to do that every day. Copying and pasting stuff from one system to another takes up a lot of time. But sticking with the accountant example, right? Now, you find that 70% of what we do, what accountants and bookkeepers do within all these kind of applications, whether it's TaxFiler or QuickBooks or Xero and all that, 70% of what they do is manual and repetitive. So it's them clicking buttons, it's them copying and pasting data from one application to another application. It's them doing data entry work, but loads of low-level tasks that ultimately lead to more. So once you have done that, those low-level tasks, then you can do more of the higher value activities, right? So 70% of their time. So if you think about it, that's a lot of wastages, right? And the impact it has on these businesses, on the employees of these businesses, is from a business perspective, there's a loss in productivity, right? Manual tasks can lead to all sorts of data entry errors, right? And then no matter how well paid I am, if all I spend my days doing is clicking buttons, then I can't be satisfied. I can't be fulfilled as an individual, right? Data entry will lead to less customer satisfaction, which means that your churn rate will increase, right? And then after a while, clients thinking, what exactly? Because you have clients coming to you for value add activities, but you're so sucked into doing those low level tasks that you can provide value add services to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And then if you're missing deadlines from an accounting perspective, then there are all sorts of fines that come to the business, or if you wrongly add data in, ultimately there's loss of revenue. Good. So that's what's happening.
Yeah,
right?
Reputation as well. Absolutely.
So we think there is a better way, right? And this is us imagining the future, right? Or are we, right? So we're thinking at some point in the future, every bookkeeper should have an assistant on their desktop helping them to do manual repetitive work, freeing them up so that they can do value add work, right? In case viewers or participants on the program are wondering, what these numbers mean. So if you think about it, typically, so I said 1,400, almost 1,500 bank transactions every day. Now, to do this volume in a day, working consistently. So if you do an 8-hour day, it'll take you 3 days to do 1,500 bank transactions full time, right? Now, so imagine being able to do that volume without even at the click of a button. So you click the button and you continue doing something else, and then the automation is running in the background.
Whilst we're using bookkeepers as an example here, I think it's important to remember that whatever industry you're in, whatever business you have, any task where you're doing multiple of the same task on a regular basis, robots, automation can help, can't it?
Absolutely. So I'll give you an example. So online retailers, one of the things that they do a lot of is they have to manually update the pricing of their products on the website, right? Now, if you have 1,000 SKUs, right? That's hours spent just updating information on your website. Now, that's a typical example of manual repetitive tasks that you could train a robot to do on your behalf.
The other one that springs to my mind is for many of our clients is just invoicing, simple invoicing.
Absolutely.
But anything you've got to do on a very regular basis, then automation can help. But no, carry on with this example of bookkeeping. It's really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the other side, we have payroll as well. So one of the things that you have to do from a compliance standpoint is that every month you have to do real-time information submissions to HMRC, right? So an average bookkeeper with a lot of clients will spend, so to do 7,500 clients RTIs in a month, we're probably looking at easy 20 days. Right, to be able to do that volume in 3 days without having to do any manual work yourself. Just click a button and it gets done. For me, that's a lot of mileage gained and increases your capacity as well. Right now, how does that? I mean, the question really is: this all sounds nice, but it sounds a bit fairy tale as well, as you imagine. So, what I thought I would do is, depending on how much time we have, Steve, is show a couple of examples of what I've just said.
Yes, we've got 20-25 minutes. We're good for time at the moment. Can I?
Okay, good stuff. So let's look at the bank reconciliation one. So this typically, I won't do it for the second example, but typically, what would I do if I had to do bank reconciliation? Right, I'll log into Xero. This is a Xero example. Log into Xero. I'll select a business account. So into my organization, pick the business account. It could be Stripe, it could be HSBC, doesn't really matter. Once I click on it, I go into it and I go through a process of reconciliation based on set rules. So if I green match transactions, typically those ones are suggestions made by the application, which is, oh, I've looked at the transaction, I've looked at certain variables, and I think perhaps this is what you need to, this is okay for you to reconcile. Then all I do is validate that and click OK. Right? That's one thing I do. Then in some cases, I would have set rules based on transactions that I do all the time. So from some certain suppliers, based on the rule, again, Xero will capture those rules and give me a suggestion, click OK, and that should be, yep, that's that done.
Yeah.
Right. Now, so once I've done that, so once it meets the rule, I click OK or I click reconcile or whatever it is I need to do. And then all other ones that require clients involvement. So maybe I have to go back to client for invoices or go back to client to validate, the amounts or disparities in the amounts outside. So that's a step 3 activity. And then once I ignore those ones, I repeat the same process 2 and 3 over and over and over again. So rinse and repeat. So very simple, straightforward, right? But it takes us a lot of time.
Absolutely, yes. On a regular basis.
On a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
What do? We take a piece of software and we train the software, show the software how we do the work, and then we use that to code the software to do the work on our behalf. So it does essentially the same kind of things that I will do. So you'll still go into, you open Xero, log in, go to the business account, check through the rules, check through the transactions, and treat them based on the rule set. If there are ones that are outside exceptions, it ignores them or leaves a note for a human colleague to do, and it does rinses and repeats steps 2 and 3 over and over again till it finishes that client organization, and then it can do the same thing for as many client organizations as is possible, within the set time. Okay.
I've got a question. I don't know if you want to answer it now. So, question from Paul. He's just saying, are these robots that we're referring to, are they generic that you can get off the shelf, or are they applicable to any business, or are they bespoke made for each individual business?
That's a really good question, and really good question. No, so they're not generic off the shelf. I wish I could say that they were. It's
not like really, picking up Windows 11 or Windows 10. You've got, it's built specifically
it's built for the business. Now that's where it gets interesting, because our mission in Synergy is we're trying to build the robot that understands as many scenarios as possible. So we're leveraging a little bit of artificial intelligence, a bit beyond the AI and RPA, to build the bookkeeping robot for Xero. So it should using best practices that we've gleaned from working with different clients. We're building that robot that should be pretty much a plug and play for a scenario like this.
Right.
Whereas typically to do a bespoke solution will take you weeks, if not months. So what we're looking to do is to be able to get it to where Paul wants it, which is I basically buy it and it's working for my organization inside of a day, 2 days.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of tailoring, but it's
There's a little bit of
it's
tailoring.
getting that balance right, isn't it? In terms of
Absolutely.
bespoke software can, as you say, quite rightly, take a long time to get working, but also will cost a lot more than a
Yeah.
simpler. Yeah.
So again, it comes back to the same. So I think if bookkeepers and businesses did bank reconciliation the same way all the time, then it will be easier to do that. But people have all these nuances in how they do things and how they want to do stuff. That needs to be catered for that, which is where so we're applying the 80-20 rule. So if 80% standardized, and then you have that 20% that still needs to be bespoke.
Brilliant. And so we've got that first step that's been automated, you were talking to us about. So what else can be automated in that process?
So what I'm going to show you is, I'm going to actually show you the bot do steps 1 to the end, essentially.
Wow.
Right. So let's actually see what it looks like for a bot to actually do bank reconciliation. Right. So what I'm going to show you is a time-lapsed video of a bot doing bank reconciliation in Xero. Okay. So here it goes. Yeah, we can keep talking about. So that's the robot getting started. So everything here that you are seeing at the moment is really the bot doing the work. So it logs into Xero and pretty much goes through those steps. So it's logged into Xero. It checks what's in the bank feed, compares it to what you have in Xero, and if it meets certain rules, it will click OK. And it does it over and over and over again.
And so Paul's just asking, does this log into your bank as well, or is it just logging into Xero?
It doesn't log into your bank. I believe banks will have all sorts of rules for you not to, you want to have two-factor authentication and all sorts of authentications in place. It could do if you trained it to, but it just depends on you. For this, what happens is you do a connection between Xero, which is the beauty of Xero. So Xero does an integration. It has an integration with all the banks in the UK, including Stripe, PayPal, and all the rest.
Yes, yeah.
You can actually pull the feed from your bank, so you don't have to log into the bank. You can just make sure the bank is connected to Xero or QuickBooks or Sage, and then it pulls the bank statements through. Mm-hmm. Which is what we have on which is what's reflected on the left-hand side of the general ledger.
Mm. And a question from Ahmed. Obviously, this is demonstrating in a Xero environment. He's asking, is it Mac or PC specific, or can it work on anything?
So this is PC specific. So it works in Windows environments only.
Right. Okay. And is there plans, for Mac versions of this?
At some point, yes, but I think for us, it's not in the near term, just simply because most organizations on Windows, again, we're looking at standardizing. So is that whole, do you cater to everybody, or do you cater to the majority?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. And that's it done, is it?
And that's it done.
Wow.
So it's just gone through like 40 bank transactions. Obviously, this is time lapsed. It actually took it about 6 minutes to get it done, but the same work it did in about 6 minutes will be done by a human in 40 minutes. So one minute or so per transaction, about 40 minutes.
Wow. And that's done at time lapse, so about 3 minutes there.
Yeah.
And it's done 40 transactions reconciled within Xero. And imagine what that member of staff, that employee, or even yourself as a business owner could do with your time instead of sitting in front of a computer looking at Xero.
Absolutely. That's the idea. That's the beauty of it.
And so that's one example of reconciliation. Any other examples you've got? Or
payroll is the other one. So that's another bugbear of businesses as well as accountants and bookkeepers, right? So what we're going to see is, again, similar to bank reconciliation, is a robot log into Moneysoft in this case, and log into Moneysoft in this case and do some RTI submissions, as well as downloading pay slips for different clients. Okay. So again, that's click of a button.
So the robot's doing this at this stage. You're not operating the computer at all. This is all robot driven.
This is all robot. The moment I clicked on that button that said Moneysoft, it's off to the races for the robot. So everything that you're seeing on the screen at the moment is being done by a robot. We just take getting used to, because
yeah, Jack's just asking a question. If this is able to be automated, why isn't it built into the software itself? Interesting question, actually.
That's a good question. But I guess that's one for Moneysoft and Xero and all the rest.
Yes,
But I've been asked that question a lot of times, as you would imagine as well. But the thing of the matter is, if you think about it, right? One is having to build that into the application, and I'm not saying that it won't be at some point in the future, but there's an effort that goes into building that, and then the value that the software company will get from doing that is relative, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess what you were saying at the outset is every business is slightly different, so it needs to be, there's that 20% that needs to be bespoke for the business themselves.
Absolutely.
And the big providers aren't going to be able to do that.
Yeah, and then so I'll give you an example. So we build Moneysoft for a client. They use spreadsheet, Excel. We do it for a different client. They have a CRM tool. Another one uses Accountancy Manager. The third one uses Google Sheets. So at the end of the day, you might have within the application itself, it might be fully automated. But if you look at it from an end-to-end process, right, it might not be fully automated. So Xero bank reconciliation, some clients will send you invoices, which you still need to do. So even though you have bank statement, there's some clients who don't want that bank feed integration. So you still have to get it and then upload it in for it to start working, right? But all this does actually is it helps you to increase to increase the lifetime value that you get from your application. So rather than having to change an application, you can have legacy systems that you've invested in, you've trained your people on how to use them, but rather than now junking them and going for something else and retraining your workforce, you can leverage what you've got, because really, what's the tool about? The tool is about getting the end result, right? It's not the tool in itself, it's what you get out of it, right? And then another good example is, if you think about it, the application, the robot is not application, is agnostic. So you can have, I just gave an example of one robot working in two different applications, right? There's no way Xero is going to build something that will work with what do you call it?
I see. So what is classed as one robot, one bot working in both. You're not but you're not deploying two separate pieces of software or robots to do it.
Absolutely. Is the one robot. So all you have going for you is, for each new process that you have, you just add it to the list, and then you schedule the bot to do what it needs to do in some cases. So you can have the same bot do your bank reconciliation. The same bot is checking your emails for particular email account, and based on keywords, taking some action, maybe taking information and putting it in your CRM. The same bot after a while does your payroll. The same bot after a while does your tax filing for you. So that's really, so if you think of it as a robot worker rather than just a piece of software.
And I think that's the important thing mindset-wise to think about. People will naturally be focusing potentially on the cost of this as we're talking about it, but it's not about replacing your employees, but it's about thinking, how could you get better value of the work that's done by employees, whilst those mundane or routine tasks are being done by automated robots on the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In terms of setting up, you may well have covered this. Deepak's just asking, how long does it take to actually configure or set up a robot like this, or an automated system like this?
So on average, we're looking at about 3 to 6 weeks, depending on the process that we're looking at. If it's something similar to, if it's a bank reconciliation one, we can get that done inside a week, because we've done loads of examples. But if something that is completely greenfield, we're probably looking at more closer to the 6-week mark. So
about 6 weeks to get it from the first conversation with you, Kaneo, up to deployment, roughly?
From the moment we've captured the task,
Yeah. So from that,
So
once you've
that
agreed what
moment,
you're going to do, and
yes,
again, I'm imagining there's quite a lot of in-depth unpacking of looking, sort of deep dive, really, sort of looking at what's going on in the business in terms of process to identify how the robot can help.
absolutely. I think
Well, there we go. You've got the process there.
this is the process. You would expect me to have a process, wouldn't you, Steve?
Absolutely, of course.
So really, I think the first thing, what mentioning as well is the first thing that we try to do is to understand the return on investment, the return on time and money investment from even doing the work. So because we're looking for tasks that are high volume and repetitive, not those ones that you do once in a while. That is the one thing, but that one thing causes you a lot of pain. No,
and that's what we talked about earlier on about, working with your team, getting their input in terms of what's taking the time up, doing perhaps a time audit to see where systems where time is being used in the business, looking at your processes, mapping them out, and then you've got that stage one, haven't you? Absolutely. Exploration completed.
Good. So once we've done the exploration, we understand which processes will add the most value, right? Next thing that you want to do is to walk through the process so that we can capture it. So now this is us actually mapping the process. So in a lot of businesses, they've never really mapped how they do things. So this is an opportunity really for us to map how you do things, how you do that, because you actually perform that operation, right? Once we've done that, then we'll now use what we've captured to design the flow. So how will the robot do it? What are the exceptions? What are the elements of it that a human still needs to do? Or what are the things that the robot can't do because for whatever reason? Right, I give examples. An example would be in bank reconciliation, the fact that you haven't got an invoice coming, or the fact that there's no reference in the document means that the robot can't really do a final match, as an example. So note all those exceptions and then build that into the bot flow. Once we've done that, so really back to your question, so step 4 is where the main action start. That's where we do the build, the test, and deploy. And that's what I was referring to when I said 3 to 6 weeks. To do step 4 is about 3 to 6 weeks. And then once that's done, it's again having a pilot approach rather than big bang, so incremental steps. And the first real step is to try it. So find a small task that is repeatable and has high volume, build the robot to do it, and then use it for 60 days. And that way you can get an understanding of the kind of value and the kind of what you need to do ab initio. So in some cases, it might be to streamline the process first before continuing, but all that comes out when you do a trial.
And that's the important thing with any process. We talked about McDonald's a number of times. The way they flip burgers today may well not, I'm sure, will have not been the way they flipped burgers 20 years ago. The important thing with any process is to keep reviewing and refining and updating, isn't it?
Yes. So there's such a thing as CANI, continuous and never-ending improvement.
Absolutely, which is exactly what we're talking about. It's about once you've got that process in place, as you said there, after 60 days initially, review it, see if it's working well. And I'm sure. How often would you go back to these robots and just review them, Kaneo?
So once it starts working, it starts working. The other thing is that periodically the organization. So that again, that's where the process comes in, because if the way you do things change within an organization, then that updated process the bot needs to be trained on how to run the updated process. So a lot of cases, again, for accounting is the way they do the things, the way they do the things. So you find that there's not a lot of changes. And again, we advocate that this works best for processes that are a bit more stable, right? So if it's processes that you need to change every month or every 3 months, then probably not a very good candidate. But if you have a steady, stable process, then all you're looking for really is to optimize. So just keep doing the same thing over and over, do it quicker, do lots of it, then they're very good candidates. So yeah, stable processes.
So clearly the examples we've looked at here, Kaneo, are mainly they are financially based aspects of the business. Are there other aspects of the business where your robots or systemization generally can have a really good, beneficial impact?
Absolutely, yeah. So HR is another very good example. So we worked with a client in recruitment, and if you think about the recruitment process, right? So HR admin has to do a lot of work within the recruitment. So you have to, once the position is defined, you need to post the job on multiple platforms. Although there are platforms now that if you post the job ad in there, it now splits it across multiple platforms. But you have to put it on multiple platforms. You have to take feed. So applicants come back to you with different applications. In some cases, I have clients 250 applications a day that you have to sieve through, right? And then shortlist, right? So again, well, you have standard things that you look out for in those applications. So you have keywords that you're looking for, right? So those kind of that kind of process, as an example, is something that you can train a robot to do bits of, not everything in there, but bits of it. Yeah. Because it's repeatable. I gave you the example of retail, where you're having to update your e-commerce store. That's another very good examples, and there are loads of it within marketing CRM. So updating, people have as part of marketing automation, you have the system that gets your lists in, and then you have to now update your CRM, especially people who have disparate systems. So you have one system that captures your leads, and then you have a different system as your CRM, right? Typically, the option you have is advice I'll give is to have one consolidated system in any case. But if that's a lot of work, and if it's going to cost you a lot, then keep the systems that you have, and then you can have a button in between that picks the information and feeds it in to your CRM. So there are loads of examples, of what you could use robotic process automation for within any business.
Yeah, Paul, again, thank you for your comments. He's just suggesting that onboarding staff is a great way of using it, and he's also mentioned diary management, just in terms of booking people onto courses. We've got simple uses of that here at Action Coach. When you book on something with us, you book into the diary, it automatically sends you reminders, automatically sends you the right information, it sends links out after our webinars and workshops. So yeah, systemization and using technology to save you time and money in your business can be applied across the business. We've got examples here that Kineo has kindly gone through in terms of finance. And I guess it's probably fair to say, Kineo, is that the biggest advantages are probably in the financial aspect of the business, but it can be applied to any aspect.
It can be applied to any aspect, Steve. You get a lot of mileage within finance and accounting. But like I said, really in operations, client services or customer services, there's a place for it. Contact centers are a very good example, of how of the opportunities, a lot of opportunities in there for automation. HR, like I already mentioned, so within HR, anything from recruitment. So there are loads of opportunities across the business. All you have to do is think about it. And I mean, key step is think of the things that you have to do that are repeatable and that are rule-based. So once you can put a checklist together that anybody can follow, and it's something that you do on a desktop or laptop computer, then there's a potential in there for it to get automated.
Yeah, we talk here at Action Coach. Yeah, we talk at Action Coach with all of our clients from the very first time we meet them about our definition of a successful business, and it is a successful, profitable enterprise, commercial enterprise that works without you. And I guess systemization is every bit part of that. It's looking at every aspect of the business. So ultimately, you've got a business right down to the last detail that can function without you, and the same time every single time. And we go, we can all think of many organizations, but Action Coach itself is a great system that's been refined over 30 years, that has been packaged up and franchised around the world. McDonald's, Costa, you name it, there's some great organizations out there that have been systemized and documented so that other people can take that out of a box almost and sort of set up their own business and run that franchise, run that business. So it is about understanding every aspect of your business, whether you're listening to us now and thinking, well, my invoicing or my accountancy, my recruitment process, my marketing, my sales process. There's aspects in which you can systemize and go forward. Any sort of, what would be your top 3 tips for systemization in terms of identifying those areas or next steps? What would you say to anybody listening to us today who's just thinking, well, what should I, should I investigate this further? What would you be saying to them?
I would say it's a no-brainer. If you think, if you're really, Steve, I can't overemphasize this. If you're not systemizing your business today and looking for opportunities to optimize it, you're already falling behind in the competitive landscape, because I can almost guarantee you that your competitor is thinking along those lines. Not only do you get efficiency gains, but you, like you said, you're preparing for the future. You're future-proofing your business, right?
Absolutely.
So what's the first thing I'll do? I think you already mentioned it, Steve. I think first thing is to do an audit of your business.
Yeah.
Right. Look at all the things that map. If you create a 2x2 matrix, and ask yourself, what are the things that are low skill, low interest? So you don't need a lot of brain power to get it done. And you can put a simple process around it that you could give to maybe not necessarily a 5-year-old, but to someone else, and they should be able to follow the same process as you and get it done. If you can do that in your business, that is step one, right? And the good thing about that type of automation is do that exercise as well, is that you don't necessarily have to put it down on paper anymore, because there are tools out there that all they do is they take, so an example will be like a KISS flow, which what it does is once you can list what you do, then it can actually help you make sure that people within your organization follow those steps. Right? Which is really the first thing that you want to put in place.
Absolutely. And just thinking about it now, so I call them BFOs, blinding flashes of the obvious. But if you're looking at systemizing your business, then as the business owner, your staff are less reliant on you. You're giving them, some authority, autonomy in the business to be able to go and undertake tasks that are more relevant, more commercially sensible, and those mundane tasks, dare I say, that are being repetitive, being done every single day, can be taken away. But you haven't got teams coming to you asking for decisions to be made. The computer's doing that for you.
Exactly. And I think as well, in addition to that, Steve, is it gives you a lot of, and when I say efficiency, it enables you to do a whole lot more, and you get to utilize your staff better.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Because if you're handing over low-level tasks to low-level anybody, so you're less under pressure to hire highly skilled people. Right. And if you're hiring highly skilled people, it'll be for them to add real value to your client. So because you're client-centric, in any case, you want to make sure that they are well taken care of, and they can be well taken care of if your highly skilled people are busy doing mundane tasks.
Yes, using your staff and your time in the most effective way. And I go back to that phrase, a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you. And systemization leverage is all about helping you to get to that stage. And Kineo and your colleagues at Synergy are there to help you, review, as you said, explore every area of the business and identify where you may be able to systemize and bring in technology to help alongside that.
Absolutely, that's what we do. I mean, if it doesn't have to be Synergy, there's so many organizations. Find the one that's best suited for your industry, and by all means, have a conversation with us. If we're not the right people, we can always signpost you to who we think is best fit. But definitely have the conversation with the experts, and understand the potentials within your business and the possibilities. Yeah. And then if nothing else, at least you have the information, what the unknowns are.
Yes, absolutely. I did a webinar about risk-taking, a workshop about risk-taking a couple of weeks ago, and it's about doing your due diligence, making informed decisions. And as you quite rightly say, Kineo, and I say the same with the Saved Action Coach, we might not be the right coach for you and your business, but have a conversation about coaching. Let's understand how coaching may be beneficial to you and your business, how robotics and automation may be beneficial for your business. If we're not the right one, we'll signpost you to the person who we think can have most impact on your business. But let's have the conversation first. Let's sit down, and for you to understand, for our listeners out there, to understand, how the experts in whatever field can benefit you and your business is the first step and the most important step to take when making decisions.
Absolutely.
So that seems like an appropriate point in which to conclude, Kineo. Your contact details on the screen. If anybody wants to contact Kineo and have that conversation about process mapping, about looking at how you can systemize, understanding and exploring where the opportunities might be for you and your business. We've had some great questions. Thank you to Sarah, Jack, Paul, Ahmad, Deepak. Thank you all for your questions today. If you're listening to us later on, please do reach out and put any questions in. But if you'd like to have that conversation, Kaneo's contact details are on the screen. I'm sure Kaneo would love to have that initial conversation with you and either take that conversation further or signpost you in the most appropriate way. Equally, in a more broader sense, if systemization is something you're interested in finding out more, we've got free ebooks. We'll happily send you one. Please connect with us and we'll send you one of our ebooks all about systemization. That may well lead into a conversation about coaching. It may well lead into a conversation with signposting you to Kaneo. Who knows? But let's have that. Let's start the process and start the process. There we are. But let's start the ball rolling and have those conversations and see where that goes. But it's been great having you with us this Lunch and Learn. It's been great having you, Kaneo, join us, talk a bit about systemization. I'm conscious that in 40, 50 minutes, we've only really touched the tip of the iceberg, haven't we? There is so much more we could go into.
Absolutely.
But it was great seeing 40 minutes work done in 6 minutes. That's a great example of how, bots and systems can help you in your business. 40 minutes. Imagine if we could put a Lunch and Learn into a robotic format. I'm not quite sure it'd have the same impact.
No. Do you know what, Steve? I wouldn't do that. The idea is to leave the interesting work to humans.
Absolutely. And that's an important point to finish on. Robots aren't about replacing your staff. It's about making more efficient use of the skills that your staff have so they can add the maximum value. And I hope to use a pun, I hope we've added value to all our listeners today. I hope you've got something out of being with us. We're back on Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Thank you, Kaneo, so much for your time. Again, your details are on the screen. And if you lose Kaneo's details, please contact us here at Action Coach. We'll happily signpost you to Kaneo and colleagues at Synergy for that conversation. But for now, stay well, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. And thank you, Kaneo, again for joining us.
Have a good one.
Take care now, everybody.
Bye now.